Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video and back again with another Ice Lexi deck tech. The most recent video we did was an Ice Lexi deck tech with a splash of lightning, trying to give go again and kind of push some damage with lightning press and electrify, as well as a little bit of card draw. One thing I wanted to make about this deck was I had one of the guys that commented on the last video. I can't remember the name of his YouTube channel or his YouTube name, but in the Fab Discord, his name is Hell Puppy. He talked to me for a while about like a full ice build and like what he had seen had worked and what he's seen had not worked. It just gave me some really good insight. And so I wanted to kind of like bring his idea to life a little bit and kind of present it to y'all, and while also adding in some stuff I did, because this is some of his list, but it's also some of my list. We had a couple differences in cards, so it's really cool to see like different ideas and different things of Ice Lexi. Because like I said in the last video, I really think Ice Lexi with Shiver is a good option for the meta we're currently in. Really quick, the reason I choose Shiver over Voltaire, it's not because I think Shiver is a better bow holistically. I do think Voltaire is more versatile and can do more things. However, in this high Guardian now Prism meta we're looking at, maybe Viserai is really big in New Zealand nats right now too, but kind of like this high Guardian and Prism matchup you're going to get. You know, if you're going to play Lexi, I think the consistent dominate every single turn with high, tall attacks with nasty on hit effects can prove very useful. A lot of people will argue the fact that Weave Ice can do the same thing, right? You just Weave Ice and then you fuse, but now in order to get the dominate effect, I have to have a Weave Ice, I have to have an ice card for fuse, I have to be able to pitch my arrow, and I have to have an arrow. That's a lot of what ifs, right? Even with 9 Weave Ices, you're not guaranteed that every single time. So I want dominate every turn. And then if I can give it dominate a different way, then I just give it +1 with Shiver, and it's even better. So that's why I chose Shiver. For the equipment suite, I don't own a Findel Spring Tunic, so I'm using Deep Blue. But I will say, I'm not saying Tunic is worse than Deep Blue. I will say, though, Deep Blue is very good for pivot turns. If you play a 3 of a kind, it basically allows you to, on 3 of a kind turns, to activate Perch Grapplers, and like you just get rid of a red that you don't need, right? Activate Perch Grapplers and be able to play 3 of a kind and have a ton of resources to play more pumps prior to the 3 of a kind or after the 3 of a kind to play 2 arrows, because every arrow you have has go again with Perch Grapplers. It just allows you to hit those swing turns even harder. And I've actually liked it. If you're playing Lexi a lot, definitely like play around with Deep Blue. Because a lot of Lexis always say like, I never can get Perch Grapplers off. I never have the resource pool to get Perch Grapplers off. But I would say Deep Blue might be an option for you, especially if you don't think you're getting as much use out of your Tunic as you think you are. It's just something to play around with. But if you have Tunic, you can definitely use it. New Horizon, Perch Grapplers, and Shock Charmers, pretty standard for the Ice Lexi build. With Shock Charmers, you're trying to use those on hit effects even more. Going into the deck where Shock Charmers is most useful is Blizzard Bolt and Chilling Ice Fame. One of the simplest but also most consistent lines you'll get is you flip an Ice Quake out of Arsenal. Let's say it's a red, so it gives you +3, and then the next attack, whenever a Frostbite hits a hero, whenever an attack hits a hero this whole turn, create a Frostbite token under their control. So you flip the Ice Quake, that gives them 1 Frostbite. You play the Ice Quake, then you play the Blizzard Bolt, right? Give it Dominate. And shoot it, and now your Blizzard Bolt is hitting for 8 Dominate, and if it hits, it'll create another Frostbite token, and if you fused it, then if it hits, it'll create a Frostbite token. So that's 3 Frostbites created off 1 attack, hitting for 8 Dominate. So you're taxing their hand. They're having a lot of issues with that, right? And that 4th card, maybe it's another Weave Ice or something. Maybe you can even hit for 11 or something like that. It's really useful. Or if it's another blue, you can Shock Charmer it. Now all of a sudden they've now had four Frostbites, which basically means their hand is done. So Blizzard Bolt, running a full set of those. Same thing with Chilling Ice Vein. Its fuse effect is either they discard or they pay 1. Either way, you're getting a card out of hand from them. Super useful for that. Both of these are probably the 2 most important bows in the deck. 100% run a full suite of both. Like there's no substitution. I'm running a total of 24 arrows in the main board, and then I side in 3 to 5. I have 27 to 29 arrows in this build. I don't need as many arrows as other people need because I'm only firing 1 arrow per turn most of the time, unless it's a 3 of a kind turn with Perch Grapplers. So I run 27 to 29 arrows, and then I run 2 Frostfangs, so 29 to 31 threats in my deck. Some people run a little bit more. That's fine. I'm still experimenting with it, and I think that 29 arrows is pretty safe for a Shiver build. The next bow I run, which is different than Hell Puppy a little bit. This is where me and him kind of differed, which is totally fine. I run Hamstring Shot. Hamstring Shot basically on hit is a Frostbite token. because their next attack, the next first attack they play next turn, costs an additional 1 resource to play. So if their first card, if they have a frostbite and their first card is an attack, now they're gonna have 2. It's gonna cost 2 more. This is also really good because it puts them in a weird spot. So like, let's say you made 2 frostbites that turn. Shoot, let's just say you made 1 frostbite that turn, and then you play hamstring shot for 8 because Icequake can pump hamstring shot. Let's say you pay it for 8 dominate and it hits. Now, whether they're in a weird spot, either they play an attack action next turn first that costs them 2 more to play and break both the frostbite and the hamstring shot, or they play a non-attack action, which is going to cost 1 more to play, then they play an attack that's going to cost 1 more to play. So either way, they're taxing themselves twice, no matter what they play, because hamstring shot only affects the first attack that they do. So it's really good for that. The next set of bows that I run in my main board are Frostlock. Frostlock's just a really good card if it's hitting for 4 or 5. Especially against the aggro metas, it's just really useful for that. And it's just overall good blue, blocks for 3. Great card. So as you can see, 9, 18, 21, 24 arrows in the main board. In the sideboard, I don't run flake outs in this Shiver build because it's really, really redundant. The fuse effect is pretty much useless other than the fact that you could give it +1 instead of dominate. I just don't like them. I have Sleep Dart in here for the aggro matchups, obviously, right? Especially the Briar matchup. Briar's still very prevalent at New Zealand. It has 20 Briars. Still very, very prevalent. And then I have Remorseless in the sideboard as well. I don't like Cold Wave. Cold Wave's just kind of got a useless ability to me. I've never seen. I have played against a lot of Lexis with a bunch of different decks. Never have I felt the pain of Cold Wave. Hardly ever. It can tax defense reactions, but that's about it. I just don't like it personally. I'd rather run a Remorseless or a Sleep Dart, or something like that. So that I will normally side in 3 to 5 of these a game, depending on how many threats I think I need. In a fatigue matchup, I'll side in maybe all 6 and run 30 bows with 2 Frostbangs. But yeah, that was what I do for bows. When it comes to non-attack actions, everything is trying to pump or activate an ice card for me, right? So I run a full set of Ice Quakes. The reason that is Icequake can pump any arrow or any attack in my deck, right? It's not like Weave Ice. Weave Ice only can pump lightning or elemental attacks. Icequake pumps everything. And if you do have a Purge Grapple or 3 of a kind turn where you run 2 bows, it's really useful in those turns because every attack that hits this turn creates a frostbite. So it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. Some of the changes I made from the last video that Puppy helped me out with, and I really loved it, even just messing with it for a couple days, is Overflex and Take Aim, running 2 of each. You run these for the pump, but you also run these for the reload mechanic, which is what he turned me on to that I didn't even think about, right? If your arsenal is empty and you have a Take Aim in your hand or an Overflex in your hand with an ice card at the beginning of your turn, you play one of these, it's going to pump your attack, doesn't cost anything to play. Well, Take Aim doesn't. Overflex costs 1, but you can put an ice card in the bot face down in your arsenal and then use Lexi's ability to flip it. So you still get that frostbite. It allows you to make sure you consistently get a frostbite every single turn. So I run 2 of these in the main board. Very useful. Thank you so much, Puppy, for that suggestion. Pulse of Volt Haven is an obvious one, right? It's just amazing, especially you can flip it. Gives a frostbite and it gives go again for your next attack. 3 of a kind, again, staple. We already know this. The one thing that I run that I know Puppy didn't run, again, is awesome to see different things, is I run Poison the Tips. I run 2 of them in the main board. This is basically a forced Chilling Ice Vein, right? You're basically like, if you can play this, if you can flip an Icequake, play an Icequake, then play this into a Chilling Ice Vein fused, they're basically going to create 2 frostbites if it hits because it's dominated, and they're going to discard or get rid or pay twice. Like, so you're getting 2 cards out of their hand and you're giving them 2 frostbite bites, like forced, right? They don't have a choice. So their hand's pretty much done, because they're only going to have 1 hand card to pitch with. Even if they have an arsenal, it's just not going to work, right? So Poison the Tips just really taxes. It's really good. It's basically like a Chilling Ice Vein in this situation. And with these high dominated attacks that they can't fully cover up, on a bad turn, what I'm doing is 3 to 5 damage and giving them 2 to 3 taxes on their hand. Either it's taking a card out or it's giving them a frostbite or something like that. So it's just hard for anyone to play anything, really. If you get ahead with Ice Lexi, it's game's not over, but pretty much over. They have to do something really crazy. I run 1 Amulet of Ice If you get this early game, it's really good just to put on the board and be able to activate it on swing turns or on a turn where you really need it. Even if you don't have anything in your hand, you can just instant this and pull a card from the hand if you need to, if you think they're about to have a swing turn or something like that. Just really useful. Channel Lake Frigid, very powerful card. However, it isn't as crazy as you'd think. I've only seen a Channel Lake Frigid go longer than 2 turns once or twice. Not really goes longer than that because you need cards to play, and your ice cards you want to fuse or arsenal, or in this case, you want to fuse arsenal or use Ice Quake or Weave Ice. So you really don't pitch ice cards, or you try not to pitch ice cards. If you do, it's a blue ice card like an Ice Quake or a Polar Blast or something like that, or a Winter's Bite. You could even, but it's a little bit hard to keep on the field than you think. But at least it can tax their hand for a turn or two. It's really good for that. I run Winter's Bite. You can pitch this. It only blocks 2, but it can get a card out of their hand. Right. It's really useful for that. I love getting this on a 3 of a kind turn, or prior to a 3 of a kind turn, playing this and then doing 3 of a kind to kind of get ice cards back in my hand. That's ideally when you want it, but you can use it at any point. And then Polar Blast as well. If you can use this, it gives your next turn dominate if they don't pay, which most of the time they're not going to pay because you're already going to get dominated anyway. It's kind of useless for them to take a card out of their hand. So that allows you to give +1 to your next attack instead of the dominate from Shiver, and it draws you a card. So it's really useful for that. Maybe you get another pump, and all of a sudden you're hitting for 11 to 14 dominate. Just really useful for that. In the sideboard, I have Blizzard for the heavy aggro matchups. I have Exposed to the Elements, which I'm trying out against Oldheim. If you try to play this at the end of a turn, so he can't pay 2, and then it destroys one of his equipment, that has 0 defense value in it, which some of them do. Remembrance is for the fatigue matchup. We already talked about Sleep Dart and Remorseless. And then Winter's Bite is another one I put in. If I really want to try to tax their hand a lot, if I feel like they need a lot, I'll put this in. But as you can see, we have 61 cards in the main board. On a normal game, I'll have 64 to 66 cards in the deck. I don't run 60. And then on a fatigue matchup, I'll have 69 to 70 cards in the deck. It just depends. But overall, it's a little bit tighter of ratios. Like most people start with 48 to 52 cards and then board up. This kind of deck, I think you want to have around 60 cards and then board up because you're going to be playing a lot of pumps and a lot of ice cards. So you're going to want more cards in your deck. That way you can also give more threats in your deck for the ratio aspect of it. This is my full ice build. I guess it has 1 lightning card technically with Pulse of Volt Haven. But again, dominate attacks kind of get a little bit more consistent on those frostbites that you're given with ice cards. But I'm going to be trying this as well as the deck that I made prior to. I think Lexi's really fun to play with. I think she's going to get some really good stuff in Everfest, and I think people need to be paying attention to the ice build a little bit more. It's had decent success when it's been played. So definitely take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. If you agree with it, if you disagree with it, totally fine. I am totally open to everything. Help Up, you can attest to that. Do really well, just asking a lot of questions and trying to figure out things. But yeah, let me know what you think of the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. If not, go to another Flesh and Blood creator, do the same thing for them so we can get more people seeing this game. I really love to hear y'all's thoughts on what you think of the deck, good and bad. But thank y'all so much for tuning in to TCG Talk. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to y'all guys next time. Thank you so much.